In the small, wind-swept town of Haverfordwest, Wales, the Gibbons twins were hard to miss. Long before they ever uttered a word, people noticed June and Jennifer moving in perfect sync, like a well-rehearsed dance. Their braids swayed together, and their eyes stayed fixed straight ahead, barely glancing at anyone for more than a heartbeat. Kids whispered that if you called their names, they wouldn't even turn around. Teachers grumbled about how they seemed to ignore the world, as if it just didn't exist for them. And honestly, it kind of didn't, not in their eyes. They had crafted a universe that revolved around just two citizens, themselves. The twins didn't just keep their conversations private. They communicated in a way that sounded like fast-forwarded English, muttering under their breath in a rhythm too quick and soft for anyone else to decode. They would sit side by side, perfectly still, their faces almost blank, yet their eyes darted back and forth as if they were having entire conversations without making a sound. Adults found it unsettling. Other kids thought it was creepy. But the twins, they were totally unfazed. They had zero intention of letting the outside world in. As they hit their teenage years, that silent bond morphed into something heavier, something deeper. They were brilliant writers, pouring their thoughts into notebooks filled with dark tales of obsession, power, and escape. But then, their fiction began to seep into reality. One day, almost on a whim, they decided to stir up some excitement, which was their code for chaos. They started small, swiping little things, vandalizing property, testing the limits of their bond. But each little crime just fueled their courage. When you've spent your entire life with only one other person in your universe, you sometimes push boundaries just to feel something, anything. Then came the fires. It started with a tractor shed. The twins watched it burn from a distance, their eyes reflecting the flames like mirrors. A week later, another building went up in smoke. Their diaries later revealed how they described the arsons, not with fear or guilt, but with an artist's detachment. They wrote about the flames like they were characters in a story, alive and hungry. They wrote about feeling awake for the first time in years, like setting fire to something was the only thing brighter than the world they'd retreated into. Eventually, the law caught up with them. Can you imagine the scene? The judge looked at these two soft-spoken girls, barely 18, and made a decision that would change everything. They were headed to Broadmoor, one of the most notorious high-security psychiatric hospitals in the UK. This wasn't just any place. It was built for the most dangerous offenders, murderers, serial arsonists, the criminally insane. June and Jennifer arrived as these quiet girls who barely spoke, stepping into a ward where silence was practically a foreign language. Broadmoor swallowed them whole, like a beast devouring its prey. Inside, the twins started to unravel in ways that were both heartbreaking and fascinating. Some days, Jennifer would refuse to move at all, her body stiff as a board, while June filled pages and pages with desperate pleas to be separated, only to flip and beg to stay together. Staff began to notice something unsettling. Whenever one twin grew stronger or more confident, the other seemed to shrink away, like a flower wilting in the shade. Their bond wasn't just emotional, it felt almost parasitic, constantly shifting and feeding off each other's energy. At night, they'd whisper secrets, sharing a world only they understood, but during the day, they could go weeks without uttering a single word. And the moment one twin tried to reach out and make a friend, the other would somehow sabotage it, whether they meant to or not. Their lives were so tightly intertwined, like vines wrapping around a tree, in ways that left everyone else scratching their heads, trying to figure out what was really going on. Doctors tried everything: therapy, medication, long talks, separate rooms, but nothing touched the connection. Staff started saying the same thing: one twin dominates, the other obeys, but which changed like the weather. It was impossible to tell who was the sun and who was the shadow. They wrote in their diaries that they were at war with each other, a war only they could see. After almost 11 years inside Broadmoor, a decision was finally made to move the twins to a less restrictive facility. They were older now, exhausted, ready for something resembling freedom. During the transport out of Broadmoor, June noticed Jennifer slumping over in the van, her face pale, her body limp. By the time they arrived at the new hospital, Jennifer was unconscious. Hours later, she was gone. A healthy woman in her late 20s. Just gone. Like that. It's hard to wrap your head around, right? The autopsy revealed she died of acute myocarditis, which is basically an inflammation of the heart. But here's the kicker. No toxins, no trauma, nothing that could explain why Jennifer, and not June, was the one to leave this world that day. Doctors were completely baffled. They'd never encountered anything like it. It felt surreal, like her heart just decided to give up without a reason, almost like a light switch being flipped off. But then June dropped a bombshell that sent chills down everyone's spine. Jennifer chose to die so I could live. Can you believe that? It's like something out of a twisted fairy tale, right? In the months leading up to the transfer, the twins had some heavy conversations, sometimes heated arguments, about the possibility that they couldn't both make it in the outside world. Their diaries were like a window into their minds, revealing hints of a pact, a dark decision that one had to go for the other to be free. Jennifer had written cryptically about the day of sacrifice, and June expressed this strange relief, like an unbearable weight had lifted from her shoulders the moment Jennifer passed away. It was eerie, right? What really freaked people out wasn't just the tragic death itself. It was how dramatically June transformed afterward. It was like she stepped into a new life, shedding the shadows that had held her captive for so long. Suddenly, she was more alive than ever, like a flower blooming after a long winter. Friends and staff noted her newfound energy and confidence. It was as if the very act of losing her twin had unleashed something powerful within her, something that had been suppressed for years. She started speaking in a normal voice. She made eye contact. She made friends. She laughed. It was like watching a flower bloom after a long, harsh winter. The twin who had spent her entire life wrapped in silence finally burst forth, free from that invisible weight that had held her down for so long. When someone asked her what had changed, June simply replied, "Because we were tired. Because one of us had to die. It's haunting, right?" To this day, psychologists are totally fascinated by what happened between them. Was their bond something supernatural, or was it all in their heads? It's a mystery that keeps everyone talking, but one thing is for sure, their story leaves us all wondering about the depths of connection and sacrifice. June and Jennifer weren't just twins. They were orbiting planets caught in each other's gravity. And when one planet finally collapsed, the other escaped its pull. The silent twins lived in a world of their own making, and only one ever walked out of it alive.